In my last video, I explained why putting better versions of yourself on a high pedestal is actually really unproductive. Basically, when you envision this perfect, vague person that you want to become, you put them on a pedestal that doesn't actually allow you to become that person. So for example, you might envision a magnetic, charming, intriguing version of yourself that gets along with everyone, is very persuasive, very hardworking, etc., whatever you want to become. But because all you basically know about this vague, perfect person is their positive traits, you put them on a pedestal. And because you know that you have negative traits, you know you aren't ever going to get there. And so over time, there's this divide between this vague, perfect person and who you know yourself to be. And this is exactly the thing with idolization. Celebrities and influencers especially are so easy to idolize because you generally see the highlights of their life. Now I know this is like very cliche and a very common thing to hear. Don't compare yourself to influencers because they don't show the bad side of their lives. But the reality is that even though we know not to compare ourselves to influencers, we subconsciously do. And this subconsciously affects the way we view ourselves. So let me start with a big example first. So let's say you're a Swiftie or a big Taylor Swift fan who loves all of her music, watches her interviews, loves her personality, and just really relates to her. Eventually, you start to see the life that she has, like the praise she gets, the money she has, the opportunities she gets, and then you look around at your life, and naturally you're going to put her on a pedestal, because you're going to say, well, obviously I could never be at her level. Like, she must have this natural talent, she must have this natural charisma, she must have this natural luck. And notice how I say natural, because if you believe that something comes naturally to somebody, you also believe that it doesn't come naturally to you. And the foundation of this pedestal is that you start to associate Taylor Swift's success with her natural talent, natural charisma, and natural luck. And therefore, you, as a normal person, could never achieve that. Now, keep this idea in mind, but now apply it as if you were an aspiring singer looking up to a local band. Or imagine you were an aspiring writer looking up to George Orwell or Franz Kafka. Or imagine you were an entrepreneur looking up to a local coffee shop that scaled to 3 locations in your city. Or imagine you were an aspiring engineer looking up to a YouTuber who works at NASA. In all of these scenarios, the people they are looking up to, what they have achieved is generally attainable with enough persistence and with a normal situation. Like owning a coffee shop with 3 locations, writing a book with the same messages as Kafka, or even working at NASA. So I used to look up heavily to this one YouTuber. They're an entrepreneur, they're very hardworking, very level-headed. They're basically everything that I want to be. And after a while of consuming their content, I realized I thought they were just special compared to everybody else. I looked at them so highly. I thought, wow, this person must work obsessively for 12 hours a day to achieve this success. Imagine the lengths they went through. Imagine the focus they have. Imagine the drive they have. And then I looked back at my life and my personality and I thought, well, I don't have this level of drive right now. They work way harder than me. Maybe they're luckier than me. That's why they're successful. And over time, I started to actually separate myself from this YouTuber instead of trying to become closer to who I thought they were. Because I thought, wow, they're so hardworking. I'm not there right now. Maybe they have that naturally. And it was at this point that I effectively limited myself from achieving what they had achieved because I believed I didn't have the potential to be what they are. I essentially didn't have the capacity to be like my idol because I thought they were just naturally different from me. And I would never be able to achieve the things that they did. So I ask you, do you have someone in your life that you look up to, and how do you view them? Do you think they're different from everybody else? If so, you've probably put them on a pedestal. But you don't have to rid them from your idol. You don't have to rid them as being your idol completely. So let me explain a more productive way of idolizing someone. So I want to talk about the good side about having an idol, the good way of thinking about an idol. And that's thinking of them as motivation instead of as something that you're never going to reach. As someone you look up to, but not someone who is different than everybody else. So if you're an aspiring singer and you look up to Adele, don't tell yourself that she's just different from everybody else, that she just has this natural talent, this natural voice. At a point in her life, she meant nobody to people. She didn't always have her fame. She didn't always have her good voice. She didn't always have her good songwriting skills. She built up those skills over time, just like you need to do. Whatever you aspire to be, whoever you idolize, realize they're just human at the end of the day. They're vulnerable. They have flaws. They aren't special. And once you really internalize that they're human, you take them off their pedestal and you put them on your level. And this then allows you to get to their level as well, because it now feels achievable. It now feels like even though you may have to work very hard to get to where they have gotten, you know that it's possible now, because they were once like you. Now, as someone who posts on YouTube, I also need to acknowledge that maybe one day someone might look up to me in this way. Someone might idolize me. Like, to be self-aware, I've got to talk about this and address this. Because I can't make a video suggesting you not to idolize anyone, but then also expecting you to just trust this knowledge because I'm talking to you through a screen. And I say to this hypothetical person that might idolize me that I am flawed, that I am vulnerable, that I have a series of life events that you don't know about, that I'm not special. I might look special right now because I'm talking to you through a screen with a nice background and a nice message, but if you saw me on the street, you most likely would not look twice. So I urge this hypothetical person to not put me on a pedestal as well, because you can definitely get to my level. If you admire me for being able to, if you admire me for being able to speak well or articulate my thoughts well, I'll tell you right now, this does not come naturally to me. I had to work hard on this skill to get to this level, and it's actually one of the reasons I started this channel. I started this channel to get better at articulating my thoughts. I used to feel like I thought so slow in comparison to everybody else, actually. And English and language in general is truly just not my thing. I like math and numbers. So enough exposing myself, I just also had to acknowledge that. If anything, I hope I motivate you as much as possible. You can adopt the traits that I have that you admire. At the end of the day, if this message resonated with you, if the whole thing about idolization and how it could be either very positive or very negative resonates with you, then it's valuable. And if it didn't resonate, then it's not. And either way, I just wish you all the best. And at the end of each of my videos, I end it with a song recommendation. And this time, it's going to be Sugar Star Planetarium from the Omori soundtrack. It's instrumental, super peaceful, and from a really good story game. I highly recommend it. Very sad story game, but very well developed and very good. Well, that's all I have.